silly girl. You will cease to be my daughter if you don't marry Uche, and that's final." Ego angrily walked out of her parents' house with her luggage. Mr. and Mrs. Udeh were one of the wealthiest families in the city of Udoka. Their business empire, cut across several industries, was a proof to years of hard work, strategic alliances, and intelligent decision-making. Alongside their big business empire, they shared a strong friendship tie with Chief Amaka, another powerful business mogul. The two families were inseparable, bound by decades of partnership, trust, and mutual success. It was only natural that Mr. Udeh and Chief Amaka wanted their legacies to be intertwined, not just in business, but in family as well. The Udehs had two beautiful daughters, Ego and Oma. Ego, the eldest, was a brilliant lawyer, and Oma, the younger, had just graduated with a degree in business administration. Both girls had been raised in privilege, attending the best schools and living lives surrounded by luxury. But for all the wealth and the status the Udehs had, they were traditionalists at heart. Their hope had always been for Ego to marry Uche, the only son of Chief Amaka. It was a perfect plan, two powerful families merging through marriage, creating an unstoppable force both in business and in the society at large. Yet, like many well-laid plans, things didn't go as smoothly as planned by Mr. and Mrs. Udeh had expected. One evening, in their grand dining room, Mr. Udeh sat at the head of the table, his wife seated beside him. Ego sat across from them, her face tensed. They had been discussing her future, specifically her marriage to Uche. "Ego," Mr. Udeh began, his voice thin, "you understand how important this is. Uche is the only son of Chief Amaka, and this marriage will solidify the relationship between our families." Ego looked at her father, her eyes burning with a mix of frustration and determination. "I have told you, Dad, I don't love Uche. My heart belongs to Udoka." Mrs. Udeh, who has been silent, spoke up sharply. "Udoka is a nobody. What future do you see in him? He can't offer you the life you deserve. He's poor, and you know very well we can't approve of such a marriage." "Udoka is not nobody to me, Mom. He loves me and I love him. Isn't that what should matter?" Ego's voice trembled, but her stand in the matter was clear. Mr. Udeh slammed his hand on the table. "Love? Love will not secure your future. Uche can give you a life of wealth, respect, and power. What can Udoka give you? A life of struggle, a life of feeding from hands to mouth, a life of lack and want. Name it." Ego stood up, her chair screeching against the marble floor. "I won't marry Uche. I don't care about the wealth or power. I want a life built on love and respect, not on business deals." Her defiance echoed in the grand room, leaving her parents momentarily speechless. Mr. Udeh's face hardened. "Then you leave me no choice. If you insist on this foolishness, you will no longer be my daughter. We will cut you off from everything." Ego's eyes filled with tears, but she did not waver. "I would rather live a life of struggle with Udoka than marry Uche, who I don't have feelings for." Few days later, Udoka arranged with some of the elders in his community to seek Ego's hand in marriage. On arriving at Udeh's compound, Mr. Udeh and his wife were relaxing in the lounge of their mansion. When Udoka and his kinsmen arrived, one of the elders spoke first, introduced himself as Chief Ezudo from Ikenga. "We are here today to officially seek your daughter's hand in marriage. Mr. Udeh and Bianca, his wife, burst into a fit of laughter. Whose daughter do you say you're seeking for? Well, no disrespect, but please, go back to wherever you came from. My daughter will never be married to this wretched fool, seeking to reap where he did not sow. Udoka and the two elders felt humiliated and left the vicinity after Udeh and his wife Bianca has made mockery of them. Ego learnt about what transpired, immediately went to confront her parents. Dad! Mom! All this have to stop now. Ego, irritated by her parents' behavior towards Udoka. It all ends today. I have had enough of all the humiliation. I have told you countless times. My heart belongs to Udoka and no one else. I won't sit back and watch you deny me the love of my life. I'm leaving this house today. And she turned to leave with her luggage. Mr. Udeh, irritated by her attitude. Ego, listen to me. Once you leave this house, you will cease to be called my daughter. Immediately he said this, his wife Bianca started pleading with her husband on Ego's behalf. But Ego's mind was made up. She left without uttering any other words or regrets. Hello my lovely viewers, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel at African Story Tales by Abby. And for my founding subscribers, big ups to you all. Keep watching to know what happened at the end. And stay tuned, don't forget to comment, like and share with family and friends. Thank you. After Ego's refusal, Mr. and Mrs. Udeh went to extreme measures. They cut off all her allowances, hoping that financial pressure would force her to reconsider and come back to the house. They also turned Oma, her younger sister, against her, planting seed of hate by constantly praising Uche and painting Udoka as unworthy. Your sister has always been selfish, Mrs. Bianca told Oma one afternoon. She doesn't care about this family or our future. She's willing to throw it all away for a penniless, miserable man. Oma, young and impressionable, began to believe her mother's words. She distanced herself from Ego, seeing her older sister as the obstacle to their family's success. At the same time, Chief Omenka became impatient. Uche was growing more restless by the day, and the Udeh family was desperate to save their face. Finally, seeing no other way, they proposed a new plan. Oma would marry Uche instead. Unknown to the Udehs, Uche had a dark side. While he presented himself as the perfect gentleman, charming, well-spoken, and the heir to his father's fortune, he was secretly battling with serious addictions. He was a chronic womanizer and a drug addict, habits he had hidden well from the public eye. Oma, thrilled by the idea of being married to such a prestigious family, accepted the proposal eagerly. She had always been the more obedient daughter, willing to do whatever her parents asked to secure their approval. The wedding was a grand celebration, attended by the elites of the society. But behind the smiles and celebrations, Uche's true nature began to emerge. One night, just few months after their wedding, Oma waited for Uche to come home. It was past midnight when she heard the front door silently opened. Uche stumbled in, clearly drunk. His clothes were untied, and the smell of alcohol filled the room. "Where have you been?" Oma asked softly, trying to mask her worry with a calm voice. "None of your business," Uche uttered, brushing past her. Oma's heart raced with anger. "Uche, I'm your wife. I have the right to know where you go every night." In a flash, Uche turned on her. his hand twisted with anger. You think you can question me? You are nothing but a pawn in this game, just like your sister would have been. Before she could react, Uche struck her. The force of the blow sent her crashing to the ground, and everything went blank. This was not the first time Uche has beaten Oma up, but this time around, Oma sustained a heavy head injury and was unconscious. Immediately rushed to the hospital, where she was in coma for some days. News of what happened got to her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Udeh, and they immediately rushed to the hospital and was destabilized on the sight of their daughter. Mrs. Bianca burst into tears, started crying, filled with regrets. I was the one who brought this upon my daughter. If only I had known that Uche was a beast, she wouldn't have ended up in marrying him. It's all our fault, she cried as she sat beside the hospital bed where Oma was lying, and the father was full of regret. He picked up his phone and put a call through to Chief Omenka, who was sitting in his lounge, shunning Uche for his stupid actions. Udeh's voice rang out. Omenka, if you know what is good for you and your beast of a son, he should better submit himself to the police, or else if I get there, he will have himself to be blamed. Immediately, Chief Omenka dropped the call. He gave his son a resounding slap. You see what you have brought to this family? You see the shame and disgrace you've brought to us? Now look at me. Look at the shame and disrespect I have to face from Udeh. While Oma lay unconscious in the hospital, Ego and Udoka's love story unfolded like a fairy tale. Unknown to her family, Udoka was not an ordinary man. He was, in fact, the disguised prince of a wealthy kingdom, the Ikenga kingdom. He had chosen to live a simple life, to find someone who would love him for who he was and not for his wealth or status. When the king of Ikenga learns about how his son has been rejected and humiliated by Mr. and Mrs. Udeh, he urged his son that now is the right time for you to reveal your true identity. One afternoon, Ego and Udoka arrived at Udeh's mansion, accompanied by an entourage of royal guards and servants. Mr. and Mrs. Udeh were stunned as Udoka, now dressed in the royal attire of his kingdom, approached them. I am Prince Udoka of the Ikenga kingdom, he declared, his voice calm but firm. I came to your family with love, but you rejected me because I did not show my wealth. Now you see who I truly am. The shock on Mr. Udeh's face was undeniable. Mrs. Udeh could barely speak, her pride shattered. Ego stood beside Udoka, her head held high. I tried to tell you that love matters more than wealth. Now you see the truth. As the news of Uche's abuse of Oma spread, Chief Omenka and Mr. Udeh were left humiliated. Uche was arrested after Oma's near-death encounter, and the once prestigious alliance between the two families crumbled. Mr. and Mrs. Udeh, now faced with the reality of their actions, sought forgiveness from Ego. Ego, my daughter, please find a place in your heart to forgive us. We were wrong for all we did to you. Mrs. Bianca cried, her voice broken. Please forgive us. To err is human, but to forgive is divine. Please, we have all made mistakes and remembered all the mistakes we've made. Please forgive us and accept us back as your parents. Ego, now a queen in her own right, looked at her parents, her heart softened by their remorse, I forgive you, mom and dad, but let this be a lesson to you both. Love cannot be bought or forced. In the end, the Udeh's family learned the hard way that true wealth is found in love, respect, and understanding, not in business deals or social status. Thank you, my lovely viewers, for staying tuned to the end. Please share with me in the comment section what moral lessons you've learned from this wonderful story. Don't forget to also subscribe to this channel at African Story Tales by Abby to stay tuned for more interesting and mind-blowing story. I'll be waiting for you in the comment section to know what your thoughts are on this story. Thank you, and don't forget to share with family and friends and loved ones, and stay tuned for more interesting story coming your way. I remain your favorite storyteller, African Story Tales by Abby. Bye for now.